They already have your loyalty. They did not earn it. You gave it the way people receive air, without asking, without noticing, without any plan to return it. You extended it because that is what you do, because you were taught that loyalty is a virtue you give first and question later. Because holding back felt cold, and you never wanted to be cold. So you gave it early. You gave it fully. And somewhere along the way, before you had any evidence that it was safe to do so, you handed it over. And the people who received it learned one thing: you give loyalty before the invoice arrives. They did not think less of you for it. They just filed the information and adjusted accordingly. That is not a reputation for trust. It is a reputation for availability, and availability without conditions is just another word for cheap. Machiavelli watched men ruin themselves this way, confusing the feeling of loyalty with the decision to be loyal. The feeling is instinct, the decision is judgment. One costs you nothing to give. The other is the only thing worth protecting. What you call loyalty, the wrong people call access. These are the 10 laws that decide who gets yours. The first law does not reveal itself in good times. It reveals itself the moment you stop being useful. Watch what happens when you cannot give someone what they came for. Not a dramatic falling out. Something smaller. You say no to a request. The opportunity they hoped you would provide does not materialize. The connection they wanted you to make does not happen. In that moment, something shifts. The warmth cools. The response times lengthen. The energy that was so present before begins to find other places to go. Here is the Machiavellian truth underneath it. Loyalty built on what you provide lasts exactly as long as you provide it. A man whose closeness to you is indexed to your usefulness is not an ally. He is a creditor, and creditors leave when the account runs dry. The loyal man does not recalibrate when you stop being useful. His behavior toward you is not tied to what you can do for him. That is the difference, and it is visible the first time the answer is no. The second law arrives earlier than most men expect. They do not wait until they have your loyalty to test it. They test it on the way in. It will not look like a test. It will look like a favor. Small, reasonable. Something that puts you in a slightly uncomfortable position, but not uncomfortable enough to refuse. Cover for me on this. Keep this between us. Do not mention this to anyone else yet. These are not requests. They are measurements. They are finding out how much you will bend before you have any reason to say no. Because if you bend early, before you owe them anything, they already know how far you will go when they actually need something. The test always comes before the loyalty. Pass it wrong and you have already decided what kind of ally you will be to them. The third law lives in what they do with what you tell them. You will share something at some point, not because you are careless, but because trust requires a moment of exposure to form. You will say something honest about a situation, a person, a mistake. What happens next is the data. The loyal man holds it. He does not reference it in front of others. He does not use it as ammunition 3 months later in an argument about something else. He does not let it drift to someone who should not have it. What you told him in private stays private, not because you asked him to, but because he understood without being asked that it was not his to move. The disloyal man leaks, not dramatically, carefully. A detail here, a framing there, just enough context to shift how someone else sees you, worded precisely enough that he can deny having said anything. By the time you notice, the information has moved and he is standing in front of you with clean hands. Watch the small things. They are not small. A man who cannot be trusted with a private word has already shown you what he will do with your reputation, your name, your position, when the stakes are higher and you are not in the room. The fourth law is the simplest and the hardest to argue with. Loyalty flows in both directions, or it is not loyalty, it is service. Look at what you have given and look at what is returned. Not in grand gestures. The phone call returned when there was nothing to gain from returning it. The problem noticed without you having to raise it. The moment when it was their turn to show up, and they did, without announcement, without keeping score. That quiet exchange is what loyalty looks like from the inside. If it only runs one direction, you do not have an ally. You have a dependent. and dependence do not protect you. They consume you. The fifth law only becomes visible when something goes wrong for you, not a minor inconvenience. A real problem, the kind that costs you something, the kind that makes people uncomfortable to be around, the kind where showing up requires something from the other person with nothing guaranteed in return. Who is there? Who goes quiet? Who suddenly has competing priorities? Who checks in once and then waits to see how the situation resolves before deciding whether to remain close? Proximity is not allegiance. A man can be physically close to you for years, in your business, in your circle, at your table, and be entirely absent the moment showing up costs him something. You will not know the difference until the season turns. The men still in the room when the weather changes have earned a different category in your mind than the ones who were only ever there when it was easy. The sixth law will sound wrong the first time you hear it. The man who agrees with everything you say is not loyal. He is useful. Agreement costs nothing. It requires no courage, no judgment, no willingness to risk the relationship for something true. The man who tells you only what you want to hear has already made a calculation. Keeping you comfortable is more valuable to him than keeping you honest. Machiavelli made this point directly in The Prince. A ruler surrounded by men who will not disagree is a man who will be surprised by reality. The advisors who tell you what you need to hear, privately, without an audience, at some cost to themselves, are the ones operating from loyalty. The ones who flatter you publicly and stay silent when they know you are wrong are operating from self-interest. Most men mistake private disagreement for disloyalty. It is the clearest signal of the opposite. Subscribe. The men watching this channel are done being cheap with their loyalty. Every episode cuts one more wire they use to control you and teaches you exactly who is worth the real thing. Be here for it. The seventh law operates in rooms you will never enter. What does he say about you when you are not there? Not what you assume. What he actually says to people who have nothing to gain from reporting it back in moments when speaking well of you costs him something or produces nothing. This is where loyalty permanently lives, not in visible declarations, not in public support, but in whether your name stays intact when you are not present to protect it. The loyal man is the same in both rooms. His account of you does not shift depending on audience or circumstance. You will feel this over time, not by monitoring who says what, but in whether your reputation holds, whether the version of you that exists in rooms you have never entered resembles the man you know yourself to be. That either stays stable or it does not. And the difference is him. The eighth law requires patience to verify. Consistency is the only credential that cannot be faked indefinitely. A man can perform loyalty for weeks. The performance costs too much to sustain. It requires suppressing too many moments of self-interest, absorbing too many inconveniences, showing up too many times when showing up produces nothing for him. Eventually, the pattern underneath the performance surfaces. What you are looking for is not a single heroic moment. You are looking for the same behavior across different seasons. When you were ascending and when you were stalled, when you had something to offer and when you did not. The man whose conduct toward you does not vary with your circumstances has shown you something a single good moment never could. The ninth law arrives last and teaches the most. How a man leaves tells you everything about why he stayed. When the relationship ends, the business dissolves, the friendship cools, the circumstances that held you together change. Watch what he does with what he knows. Watch whether he leaves cleanly or extracts something on the way out. Watch whether he rewrites the history of what you built together, repositioning himself in the retelling. Watch whether the respect he showed you while you were close survives the departure or evaporates the moment you are no longer useful. The man who leaves well, who goes without drama, without settling old scores, without using what he knows as leverage, is showing you who he was the entire time. He was never there for what he could extract. He was there because he chose to be. And when the choice changed, he honored what existed between you even after it was over. This is a law you can apply looking backward before you apply it looking forward. You already know men who left in ways that revealed things you had not seen while they were close. You know what happened to your private information. You know who became a stranger overnight. Apply that observation forward. The man you can already imagine leaving cleanly has already told you something important about who he is right now. The 10th law is the one that separates discernment from paranoia, and it is the hardest to accept. Loyalty cannot be proven in comfort. It can only be proven in opportunity. Give someone enough time, enough access, enough proximity to your actual life, and then watch what they do with it. Not what they say they would do, what they actually do when the opportunity to benefit at your expense is real, when no one would know, when the cost of taking something is low and the gain is clear. This is the Machiavellian cold read that most men avoid because it sounds like cynicism. It is not. It is the recognition that loyalty based on gratitude is fragile. It lasts as long as the gratitude does. Loyalty based on demonstrated choice, made when betrayal was available and declined, is the only kind that holds under pressure. You are not manufacturing scenarios to catch people out. You are simply recognizing that a man who has never had the opportunity to betray you has never had to choose. You do not know what he would choose. You only know what he has not yet been asked to decide. The men who have had every reason to move against you, who had the information, the access, the moment, the incentive, and chose not to, those men have told you something real, something that early impressions cannot simulate and flattery cannot manufacture, something that only becomes visible when the choice was genuine and the cost was real. That is the only proof of loyalty that holds. The man who applies these laws does not become harder to know, he becomes harder to fool, and those are not the same thing. He does not close himself off. He stops distributing his loyalty the way a man hands out his number at a networking event, to everyone, indiscriminately, hoping volume produces something real. He understands that loyalty without judgment is not generosity. It is a failure of discernment. And the people who benefit most from undiscriminating loyalty are reliably the ones who deserve it least. He is not suspicious. He is selective. He watches what happens the first time he cannot give someone what they came for. He notices what moves with private information. He observes who is still in the room when the season turns difficult. He pays attention to whether a man's conduct toward him shifts with his usefulness, and when a relationship ends, he watches how it ends. He does not give less. He gives deliberately. And what he gives, when he gives it, to the man who has demonstrated across genuine circumstances that he can be trusted with it, that loyalty is a different thing entirely from what he used to hand out for free. What you call loyalty, the wrong people call access. The man who has earned it knows exactly what it costs to get there, and he will not waste it. You already know what you are. Finally, ruthless.